I'd like to tell about two bad work experiences that I had that might be useful to you. Both of these bad experiences had to do with the same high level manager who eventually got fired. So he had problems, and my problems were very likely because of his peculiar personality. But even so, given that I was a contractor, I needed to take into account that this guy was problematic. So the first issue that was that the company that he worked for, and I was a contractor at, the company had purchased two very different. Well, let's see. Okay, so the company made corrugated boxes. We call them cardboard boxes, but no, a cardboard box is like a shoe box. A corrugated box has a layer of what's called fluting in between two layers of paper or cardboard. Anyway, they made these, and so they had bought from New Zealand software that would run the big machines that make the corrugated boxes. And then they bought from Germany software that would allow for ordering. So the customer would call up, and a clerk at the company then could pull up this ordering software and configure the box, and does it need a wax coating, and does it need to be folded a certain direction, and is it going to hold food because that's a special deal. Okay, so now both of these companies, New Zealand and Germany, had software that did both things, which would have been so simple. But instead, everybody got this huge job of trying to make these two pieces of software talk to each other. Now, I once helped a friend pump out a bunch of porta potties because he'd got into that business, his own little independent business. And on the inside of one of the porta potties, somebody had written, this might smell like poop to you, but it smells like bread and butter to porta potty. Well, that's the way it is with IT in a big company. To the employees, they just get irritated as hell at stupid upper level decisions, such as buying two pieces of software and trying to make them talk to each other. But to the contractor, it might look like poop, it might smell like poop, but it's bread and butter to us. The more work, the better. Okay, so we're doing work on this, and I received the enormous compliment of being requested by some higher level project managers to come and do a particular piece of this thing. And so I did, and I ended up sitting then between the two, the highest level project manager for Germany and the highest level project manager for New Zealand, and I'm working on my bit, and I could overhear them on the phone. New Zealand was not cooperative. Take it or leave it. This is the way we sold it to you. It's your baby. You figure it out. Germany was very helpful, but Jesus, you're trying to make these two pieces of software talk to each other. The German software is actually more complicated. So I'm listening to them, and they got all these problems with the vendors of this software. So one day I says to these two project managers, hey, I used to practice law, and I'm listening to you guys, and I'm thinking that I could put together a checklist of things that your company ought to think about next time you buy complicated software, so that you have the vendor by the short hairs instead of the other way around as it is right now. And they both said, Nathan, that is a terrific idea. That would be very helpful. please do not do it, because this high-level manager that I mentioned before would read your proposal as a criticism of his negotiating of these two contracts, that he didn't do it right, he left things out, etc., and then your ass will be fired very quickly. So that's a great idea. Don't do it. All right. The next time I got crosswise with this guy, and I didn't know it for like 10 years. 10 years later, it surfaces. But what it was is that I had created what are called load tags, where the company would make a big bundle of this container board and send it off to a fruit packer, who would then take the container board and open them up and make boxes and put fruit in it or whatever like that. So the load tag needs to tell the fruit packer what kind of boxes these are, what size they are, what did he order. And it needs to have a barcode on it so that he can read that with his fancy little barcode reader that will interpret all that for him just from the barcode. So that's the work that I'd been put to work to do. And one of the things was that there were something like 200 different load tags at this company when I started work, and my task was to get that down to 50. Now, back east, the company had to compete with a lot of other companies that could produce the same boxes and give the buyer less grief. So if you didn't give the buyer just exactly the load tag they wanted, they'd go to the competitor. So that was a hindrance to coming up with just 50 load tags. But I did it. I got it down to 50. So then I see this email from this big boss I'm telling you about that says any future